First up on the show, the Israeli Defense Forces are pushing further into the Gaza city on a day when the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu. Blinken's visit aims to not only show support to Israel in its ongoing war, but also take up the issue of civilian casualties in Gaza. And according to Hamas, the death toll in Gaza has now crossed the 9,200 mark as Israel continues its onslaught in the region. Now, before departing for Israel, Blinken said discussions will focus on Gaza getting more humanitarian aid and ways to ensure the conflict does not spread further into the region.
We will be talking about concrete steps that can and should be taken to minimize harm to men, women, and children in Gaza. And this is something that the United States is committed to. I'm not going to get into the details here, but it's very much on the agenda.
On his arrival, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the war cabinet in Tel Aviv. He also met the Israeli president, urging Palestinians to flee to safe zones. Incidentally, the White House has dismissed calls from Arab and several other nations for a full ceasefire in the war, while pressing for humanitarian pauses. His visit to Israel comes as the United States House of Representatives passed a bill to give Israel almost $15 billion in aid. A Republican-initiated proposal, President Joe Biden has promised a veto should make it through the Congress. Meanwhile, Israel's military has said it has completed the encirclement of Gaza's largest city, claiming it has killed the Hamas commander Mustafa Dalul during one of their aerial assaults and recovered arms and ammunition during searches in the Beit Hanun area. Thousands of cross-border Gazan workers and laborers in Israel and the occupied West Bank were sent back to Gaza. Some of the Gazan workers returned through the Kerem Shalom crossing. They claim to have been detained and ill-treated by Israeli authorities after the October 7th Hamas attack on southern Israel. Now, condemning Israel's actions to send Palestinian workers back to Gaza, United Nations said that it was deeply concerned about the 4,000 Palestinian workers and hospital patients who were detained and sent back to Gaza despite the gravity of the situation there.
First of all, we were very concerned that at least 4,000 Palestinian workers and hospital patients were detained without sufficient legal basis in military facilities after Israel revoked their permits. But then, as you said, there are worrying reports that some are being sent back into Gaza despite the gravity of the situation there.
Meanwhile, after dozens of pictures and video clips emerged over the past week showing IDF soldiers abusing and humiliating Palestinians apprehended in the West Bank, Israeli Defense Forces said that they have started investigating the alleged abuses by their soldiers. After a total blockade of Gaza for more than 3 weeks, the foreign passport holders and some wounded were allowed to leave through the Gaza crossing. Yesterday, 400 foreign citizens and wounded Gazans left for Egypt after some 320 on Wednesday. Dozens of critically injured Palestinians were allowed to cross as well.